Beneath the pristine facades of Fairmont Crest, a storm of deception, betrayal, and suppressed rage churns, ready to explode. Secrets, carefully hidden behind polished smiles and polite conversation, threaten to unravel the lives of those who dare to trust too easily. In this world, love is a battlefield, loyalty a fragile illusion, and every gesture hides a hidden agenda. Vernon Dupree's quiet machinations, Ted and Nicole's fragile romance teetering on the edge of sabotage, and Leslie Thomas's ruthless manipulations collide to create a pressure cooker of raw emotion. No one is safe, no heart untouchable, and no secret too small to ignite chaos. As the lines between desire, revenge, and survival blur, Fairmont Crest becomes a stage where every decision carries the weight of destruction, and every moment pulses with the potential for scandal. Fairmont Crest simmered under a tense, almost suffocating atmosphere, where every glance, every gesture, and every unspoken word carried the weight of hidden agendas and unrelenting rivalry. Vernon Dupree, the patriarch whose presence often radiated authority and stability, now clung to secrets he could not share with Anita, secrets that threatened to destabilize the foundation of their carefully curated life. His silence was deliberate, calculated, each withheld truth a tool, each unspoken plan a weapon. Vernon's mind was a labyrinth of strategy and self-preservation. Every decision, every subtle maneuver, was designed to control, manipulate, and protect his image while keeping potential threats at bay. What appeared as composure on the surface concealed an inner storm of calculation, a relentless drive to maintain dominance in a world where power was measured by secrets kept and influence wielded. Anita Dupree, poised, intelligent, and commanding in her own right, sensed the subtle shifts in Vernon's behavior. A flicker in his gaze, a hesitation in his speech, a secretive glance. All ignited a spark of suspicion that quickly grew into a simmering, almost physical tension in her chest. She felt the heavy weight of doubt pressing against her, the unsettling notion that the partner she trusted most could be hiding something that might unravel everything she had built alongside him. The growing chasm between their shared facade and the hidden truths gnawed at her, fanning flames of anger and resentment. Anita's internal struggle was fierce. The desire to uncover the truth battled with the fear of the consequences, knowing that any revelation could shatter the carefully maintained veneer of their marriage. Her thoughts twisted in endless loops, considering every possibility, every potential betrayal, until the tension became a tangible presence, suffocating yet impossible to ignore. Meanwhile, Ted Richardson's heart and mind were equally ensnared in a web of conflicting emotions. The ongoing push and pull with Nicole Richardson left him on edge, a constant oscillation between hope and apprehension. Ted's planned romantic gesture, meant to solidify their on-again, off-again reunion, carried with it the weight of testing boundaries and measuring trust. Yet the potential for interference loomed large. Carlton Fitzgerald, with his unpredictable intentions, hovered as an unseen threat, capable of derailing Ted's carefully orchestrated moment of intimacy. Ted's excitement mingled with tension, a cocktail of desire, fear, and calculated risk. Each step toward Nicole was laden with anticipation, but also with the unspoken knowledge that the fragile thread of happiness could be severed in an instant. Nicole, while outwardly delighted, felt the creeping intrusion of doubt. Her joy was laced with caution, her excitement tempered by the awareness that unseen hands might manipulate the moment, turning hope into heartbreak. The psychological tension between them intensified, creating a dynamic where love itself became a battleground of suspicion, vulnerability, and strategic maneuvering. Danny Dupree and Andre Richardson, the newlyweds, were thrust into a crucible of familial pressure and ideological conflict. Their union, celebrated superficially as a triumph of love, was met with disapproval from Danny's parents, Anita and Vernon. The weight of parental expectations pressed down on them, each interaction with her family a gauntlet testing their resolve, loyalty, and courage. Their commitment to each other became both a source of strength and a spark for internal conflict, forcing them to confront whether the preservation of love justified the emotional cost of rebellion and confrontation. The pressure built quietly at first, simmering beneath polite conversation and measured smiles, before erupting into moments of searing tension that tested the limits of their endurance. In this environment, the smallest misstep or misinterpreted gesture could ignite a cascade of conflict, each reaction amplifying the next in a relentless cycle of mistrust and emotional strain. Leslie Thomas embodied calculated malice and strategic self-satisfaction. Her joy derived not from shared happiness or genuine connection, but from the disruption of others' lives, particularly the romantic aspirations of Nicole and Ted. The subtle manipulation of events, the sabotage of a tender reunion, was a source of private triumph, feeding her sense of superiority and control. Every action Leslie took was deliberate, a measured strike aimed at destabilizing relationships and asserting dominance in a social hierarchy governed by deception and advantage. Her euphoria was fueled by the tangible effects of her interference, and the knowledge that her schemes left a trail of emotional upheaval behind. For Leslie, power was the ultimate aphrodisiac, a source of satisfaction that could be wielded against any who threatened her perceived position, reinforcing her conviction that control over others was both a right and a necessity. Eva Thomas, in contrast, was caught in the moral and emotional crossfire. Her conscience conflicted with her loyalty, placing her at odds with her own desire for justice. Witnessing her mother's manipulations, Eva struggled with the responsibility she bore for the fallout of Leslie's actions. Her internal conflict was acute, the imperative to intervene and prevent harm collided with the awareness of her limitations, the recognition that her influence was insufficient to counterbalance the magnitude of her mother's control. Eva's thoughts were a tumultuous mix of anger, fear, and ethical reckoning, each decision weighted with the potential for consequence. She moved cautiously, calculating her interventions against the inevitable chain reactions, yet no step felt sufficient to prevent the growing chaos, leaving her in a liminal state of tension between action and restraint. Across the sprawling estate, the invisible web of conflict stretched taut. Secrets, suspicion, and betrayal wove an intricate tapestry that bound every resident into a collective tension, where each action could trigger a cascade of unforeseen consequences. Ted and Nicole's fragile romance teetered on the brink of disruption, Danny and Andre navigated familial disapproval and personal ambition, Vernon's guarded schemes simmered beneath the surface of marital harmony, and Leslie's machinations threatened to destabilize the already fragile equilibrium. Every decision carried stakes that extended beyond immediate impact, creating a high-stakes environment where instinct, calculation, and emotion collided. The social ecosystem of Fairmont Crest was a pressure cooker, amplifying human flaws into dramatic eruptions that left no one untouched. Anger in Fairmont Crest was a potent force, arising from frustration, envy, fear, and betrayal. It manifested not in overt confrontation alone, but in subtle shifts, furtive glances, calculated silences, unspoken accusations, and the cold, meticulous orchestration of outcomes. The characters' emotional volatility was heightened by a sense of entrapment, each was cornered by circumstance, expectation, or hidden knowledge, prompting reactions that oscillated between restraint and explosive assertion of will. Decisions were rarely rational, they were survival strategies, expressions of self-preservation, and instruments of power. The interplay of these forces created a relentless tension, where every scene, every interaction, carried the potential for emotional and social detonation. In this world, intimacy, power, and ambition intertwined. Relationships were defined not by affection alone, but by the constant calculation of advantage, the anticipation of betrayal, and the negotiation of influence. Love was tested against suspicion, loyalty against ambition, and desire against strategy. The characters' emotional landscapes were vast, complex, and fraught with peril, where a single revelation could ignite cascading consequences, forcing alliances to shift, loyalties to fracture, and identities to be re-evaluated under the unrelenting pressure of circumstance. By midweek, the tensions escalated, as hidden agendas collided with personal desires. Vernon's secrets began to encroach upon Anita's awareness, sparking a subtle yet destructive conflict. Ted's romantic overtures, designed to rekindle intimacy, were disrupted by Carlton's subtle interventions, prompting a re-evaluation of trust and emotional alignment. Danny and Andre faced critical moments that challenged not only their relationship but their individual integrity, demanding choices that could alter the trajectory of their lives. Leslie's manipulations advanced unchallenged, leaving Eva to navigate a treacherous path between intervention and helplessness. The emotional stakes reached their peak as each character confronted the consequences of actions they could not fully control, revealing raw vulnerabilities and unspoken fears. By the time the shadows lengthened over Fairmont Crest, the consequences of hidden agendas and calculated manipulations began to settle like a heavy, suffocating fog. Vernon Dupree, whose quiet schemes had simmered beneath the surface, now felt the first tremors of the delicate balance he had so meticulously maintained. The secrets he kept from Anita, once his shield and weapon, threatened to slip, each suppressed truth a ticking fuse poised to ignite. Anita, armed with intuition sharpened by years of partnership, sensed the shifting ground beneath her feet. Her anger, a slow-burning ember, grew into a blaze that demanded action, clarity, and resolution. The weight of betrayal pressed upon her, forcing every choice into the realm of extremes, and leaving no room for compromise or retreat. In the echo of unspoken confrontations, the couple found themselves navigating a battlefield of suspicion, loyalty, and pride, where even the smallest misstep could fracture their bond irreparably. Across town, Ted and Nicole stood at the precarious edge of reconciliation. Their love, always fraught with uncertainty, now bore the scars of interference, mistrust, and outside manipulation. Ted's attempts at connection collided with the subtle intrusions of Carlton Fitzgerald, testing Nicole's faith, patience, and willingness to forgive. Nicole, oscillating between joy and apprehension, felt the sting of potential betrayal, each smile tempered by doubt, each gesture weighed against the possibility of deception. The fragility of their reunion underscored a simple yet painful truth: in Fairmont Crest, love is never uncomplicated, and passion is always shadowed by suspicion. Meanwhile, Danny Dupree and Andre Richardson faced the full force of familial disapproval. The weight of expectation, judgment, and imposed authority pressed relentlessly, compelling them to confront not only the disapproval of parents but also the fractures in their own resolve. Every choice became a crucible in which their commitment and identity were tested. Each moment of defiance carried consequences, each act of loyalty or rebellion shaping the contours of a future that was never guaranteed. Their love, though genuine, was caught in the relentless currents of expectation, and the very act of holding onto it required courage, cunning, and endurance beyond measure. Leslie Thomas, emboldened by her successes in manipulation, reveled in the chaos she had orchestrated. Her triumphs, however, came at a cost, a precarious balance between control and exposure. Eva Thomas, caught between moral obligation and the overwhelming force of her mother's ambition, grappled with decisions that could either avert disaster or accelerate it. Her struggle illuminated the stark reality of Fairmont Crest: power, desire, and vengeance are intertwined, and the line between action and consequence is razor-thin. As the night deepened, the interconnected fates of Fairmont Crest's residents revealed the inescapable truth: secrets and lies, once unleashed, cannot be contained. Every betrayal, every calculated maneuver, every suppressed emotion rippled outward, leaving no character untouched. Anger burned, alliances shifted, and trust eroded, exposing the raw, unvarnished core of human ambition and vulnerability. In this world of relentless intrigue, the only certainty is instability, and the only constant is the shadow of betrayal looming over every choice. By the end, Fairmont Crest stood as both stage and victim, a microcosm of desire, fear, and the dark consequences of unchecked ambition, where every action carries the weight of irrevocable consequence and every heart is tested in the furnace of intrigue.